A man once hailed as a savior of the people would later go down in history as the greatest villain the world had ever known. His rise was slow, calculated, and terrifyingly effective. Victor Romero wasn't a politician, nor was he a revolutionary. He was just a man who understood how to use the chaos of the modern world to his advantage. It all began when a video of Victor surfaced online. "Our world is broken," he said, "but together we can fix it." The message resonated. His words were shared thousands of times, then millions. People called him brave for speaking the truth. He started addressing corruption, economic inequality, and how the government was failing us. Issues everyone could agree on to some extent, but hidden within his rhetoric were seeds of division carefully planted to grow into chaos. As time went on, Victor's followers grew exponentially. They loved his slogan, "Make the world pure again." It became a rallying cry, one that symbolized hope for a perfect world free of pain and suffering. People proudly displayed the slogan on their shirts, hats, cars, and even their homes, as if holding on to the dream of a brighter future. September 4th, 2029. Victor held his first public rally in the heart of downtown Chicago. Thousands came to see him in person. As he took the stage, his voice was calm yet commanding. "I am here for you," he said. "I will give you the truth that the media won't. They're all lying to you. They don't want us to succeed because a united people cannot be controlled." The crowd erupted in cheers. Victor's words were simple but effective. Over time, his repetition of these phrases convinced his followers that the world was full of lies and that Victor was the epitome of truth. Some even believed he was a god. As a result of this, reporters who questioned him were labeled as enemies. Friends and families were torn apart as political debates turned into screaming matches. News outlets ran exposés about his past, rumors of violence, illegal dealings, and ties to terrorism. But it didn't matter. Victor had already convinced his followers that most media was false news. No matter what was exposed of his true intentions, Victor's followers were willing to die for him. October 17, 2030. The first law influenced by Victor was passed. Immigrants were labeled as a threat to national security, and mass deportations began. Families were ripped apart. Videos of children crying as they were taken from their parents began circulating online, and riots were rampant nationwide. "Those people don't belong here," he said in another viral post. "We're just protecting what's ours." Victor had successfully taken a nation that was supposed to be united and divided it more than ever. Social media and news outlets were flooded with footage of violence. Resistance groups began connecting through hashtags such as #ResistVictor and #ModernHitler. But despite this, his influence only grew. February 2nd, 2032. Victor ran for president. His campaign was fueled by misinformation and fear-mongering. He promised to restore order by any means necessary. But what his opponents didn't realize was how far his influence had already spread. Fake accounts flooded social media to amplify his message. Opposing candidates were buried under a mountain of false accusations, and the circumstances of the election were highly questionable. But by the time Victor won, it was too late to stop him. June 15th, 2035. Victor now had complete immunity and was easily the most powerful man in the world. He used military forces to invade neighboring nations, seizing land by force. His followers, emboldened by his rhetoric, attacked and even killed those who were not pure. July 1st, 2035. Victor signed a law banning 50% of hospitals from treating women. The next day, he stripped them of their right to vote. A week later, at a rally filled with thousands of supporters, Victor made another chilling proclamation. "The role of women," he said with a smile, "is to nurture and support. This is not oppression, it's freedom. The freedom to fulfill their true purpose." The crowd erupted in applause, drowning out the cries of despair from women who realized what this meant for their futures. Those who resisted were silenced. As the chaos overshadowed their cries, their social media wiped clean, and their families too afraid to speak out. October 14th, 2035. Victor's laws began targeting minority groups under the guise of maintaining order. LGBTQ+ individuals were specifically branded as threats, forbidden from marrying, adopting, or even expressing their identities publicly. Protests became battlegrounds, as Victor's private militia, the Purists, controlled the streets, armed and ready to crush dissent. Social media, once a platform for freedom, became a weapon in Victor's arsenal. Algorithms boosted his propaganda, drowning out any opposing voices. December 25th, 2035, Victor unveiled his ultimate vision. Citizens were required to register for purity evaluations. Those deemed impure, whether due to their ethnicity, religion, or even medical conditions, were stripped of their citizenship and sent to relocation centers. These centers, described as a place for re-education, became sites of unimaginable horror. Survivors later recounted stories of slavery, torture, genocide, and inhumane living conditions. Behind closed doors, millions died, victims of mass shootings, executions, gas chambers, starvation, and even being buried alive. Victor's smiling face was everywhere: billboards, advertisements, and even children's textbooks. To his followers, he was no longer just a leader, he was a god. March 1st, 2036, the world had descended into chaos. Victor controlled the largest and most brutal military force in history, but Victor's true intentions were far darker than even his most loyal followers could have imagined. Behind closed doors, he had been planning to create a world where only the wealthy, powerful, and pure could exist. Entire regions were left to starve, their resources seized to fuel Victor's empire. August 10th, 2037. Nearly a decade later, Victor stood atop his golden podium, addressing the world in a live broadcast. "We have done what no other generation could. We have purified the world. The weak has been weeded out. We stand at the dawn of a new era." Behind him, a massive screen displayed images of burning cities, starving children, and mass graves. To Victor, these were symbols of progress. His followers cheered, blind to the devastation. Victor Romero's rise to power was not a result of his brilliance or charisma. He exploited fear, ignorance, and division, turning neighbors, friends, and family against each other. By the time the world realized the extent of his evil, it was too late. The seeds of chaos he planted had grown into an unrelenting forest of darkness, and humanity was left to wander in its shadow. Truthfully, though, and this is the closing statement, Victor Romero was not the first, nor would he be the last to seek out this type of totalitarian rule. And if we are not careful, if we do not intrinsically question, challenge, and understand our own beliefs on a deeper than surface level, we may one day find that this is less of a story, but more of a premonition of the future. Thanks for watching.